You are.
What is the matter?
I feel a little low.
I know what could help. CEMTV Morning Pulse.
And now, time to talk sports matters on CEMTV. Stay with us.
Sensational! Absolutely sensational! Sensational! And Stadium is rocked. The All Blacks press forward with a driving run. White 5 for 3, it's good. A huge shot. The puck drops in this gold medal game.
So, Nigeria produced its most significant showing at an NBA draft in recent memory on Thursday, with 6 players of Nigerian heritage selected at the 2026 edition held at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, led by Felix Okpara and Ugonna Oyenso, who became only the second pair of Nigerian-born players to be drafted in the same year. The defending President Federation Cup champions Kora United are still waiting to receive the 50 million naira prize money promised for winning last year's competition, even as the finalists for the 2026 edition have now emerged. And just so you know, the Netherlands secured top spot in Group F with a 3-1 victory over Tunisia at the ongoing FIFA World Cup in USA, Mexico and Canada. Australia are into the last 32 of the Mundial, and Paraguay are well placed to join them after a goalless draw in San Francisco, which suited both sides. Eliminated Turkey scored a 98-minute winner to clinch a 3-2 victory over World Cup co-host USA, who will face Bosnia and Herzegovina in the round of 32 of the tournament. Now, former Arsenal forward Nicolas Pepe scored twice as Ivory Coast secured second place in Group E with a comfortable 2-0 win over Curaçao. At least 19 teams, just so you know, have confirmed their places in the round of 32 of the World Cup. At least 10 teams have also been sent packing from the Mundial right there in USA, Mexico, and of course Canada. With that I say, welcome to Sports 360 on CEMTV. I'm that name, you know, the voice is raw standard mayor you probably need. They call me Rex Patrick the Locker, that homeboy that's never at home. I lock around 247-365. I'm your host and guide. Without much ado, we start off with Formula One this morning, where World Championship leader Kimi Antonelli says he and Mercedes teammate George Russell intend to race differently against each other to avoid giving up points to rival teams. Of course, it's been quite a ride for, the outfit this campaign as they look to continue from, where they stopped in the previous race. The pair have been involved in multiple training on-track battles this campaign, but their latest duel had a negative impact on Mercedes as it allowed Ferrari's Lewis Hamilton to gain time on them both, on his way to winning the Barcelona-Catalunya Grand Prix last weekend. Antonelli's retirement in the latter stages of the race with a technical failure enabled Hamilton to reduce the Italian's championship to the lead to 41 points, with the result also suggesting Mercedes might not have things all their own way this season after victories at the first 6 rounds pointed towards a potential dominant campaign. The challenge from Ferrari could potentially be heightened in Austria as the Italian team bring a first engine upgrade at the season, having been granted the opportunity to make ground on fellow manufacturers Mercedes and Red Bull. From there now we move on to the NBA, where Nigeria produced its most significant showing at an NBA draft in recent memory on Thursday, with 6 players of Nigerian heritage selected at the 2026 edition held at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, led by Felix Okpara and Ugonna Oyenso, who became only the second pair of Nigerian-born players to be drafted in the same year. And of course, the first round picks set the tone early. Ebuka Okorie, a Stanford University product with Nigerian ties, was selected 17th overall by the Oklahoma City Thunder (OKC), with his draft right subsequently bound for the Detroit Pistons as part of a planned trade involving the Memphis Grizzlies. Zubi, Ejiofor of St. John's University followed at 23rd overall, chosen by the Atlanta Hawks to complete a strong first round showing for players of Nigerian heritage. In the second round, 46th overall by the Orlando Magic. The center established himself as one of the most dependable shot blockers, in the Southern Honor in his senior season. He ranked second in program history in blocks per game at 1.6 and is one of only 4 tennis players, to record multiple 50 block seasons. Okpara grew up playing football before taking up basketball shortly after relocating to the United States, and that was back in August 2018. Ortega Owe, who holds Nigerian ties and stayed at the University of Kentucky, went for the first overall, to the Miami Heat, with his rights heading to the Oklahoma City Thunder in a planned trade. Interesting times for these Nigerians. Of course, the guard led the Wildcats in scoring. That's about 18.6 points per game, and steals 1.8 per game in his senior season, and finished with more points across his first 2 seasons at Kentucky. And of course, than any other player. That was more than any other player in the program's history, accumulating about 1,255 points. He is also the brother of Washington Commanders defensive and Odafe Owe, a first-round NFL draft pick. That was back in 2021. Toby Lawal, a London-born forward of Nigerian descent who played his college basketball at Virginia Tech, was taken 48th overall by the Dallas Mavericks. Lawal did not pick up a basketball unit until he was 16, having grown up in London, but developed rapidly after crossing the Atlantic. He posted 12.3 points, 8.5 rebounds, and 1.1 blocks per game in his senior season at Virginia Tech, leading the Hokies in rebounding, for his second consecutive year. Oyenso, born in Owerri and a product of NBA Academy Africa in Salé, Senegal, rounded off the Nigerian contingent as the 53rd pick, selected by the Houston Rockets, with his right set to move to the Detroit Pistons via the New York Knicks in a planned trade. The center spent 3 years at the NBA Academy Africa before moving to Putnam Science Academy in Connecticut, where he averaged 13.2 points, 9.2 rebounds, and 2.3 blocks per game as the school went unbeaten in 20 matches. He transferred through Kentucky and Kansas State before a breakout senior year at the University of Virginia, earning spots on ACC All-Defensive Team and ACC All-Tournament First Team. At 17, he had become the youngest player ever to represent Nigeria's seniors national team. The senior national basketball team, and his selection makes him the 3rd NBA Academy Africa graduate and 15th NBA Academy alumnus overall to be drafted. More than 10 players from Africa or with at least one African parent were selected across the full draft, underlining the continent's growing influence on the global basketball pipeline. Interesting times for Africa and of course Nigeria in basketball and NBA precisely. From there, now let's move on to football, where on the home front, defending President Federation Cup champions Kwara United are still waiting to receive the 50 million naira prize money promised for winning last year's competition, even as the finalists for the 2026 edition have now emerged. Interesting times for, Kwara United. I tell you, for the most part, the Harmony Boys defeated the Rice Boys, that's Abakaliki FC, by 4-3 on penalties in Lagos to lead to Nigeria's oldest football trophy. That was back in 2025. But 1 year after that triumph, the Ilorin-based side is yet to receive the financial reward attached to their success. Sources close to the club reveal that there's been no communication from the Nigeria Football Federation regarding the outstanding payment. Efforts to get comments from NFF President Ibrahim Musa Gusau, General Secretary Dr. Mohamed Sanusi, and the Federation's Director of Competition, Ruth David, were unsuccessful, as they had yet to respond to inquiries as of the time of filing this report. While the issue remains unresolved, attention has shifted to this year's competition, with the Oga Boys, that's Ikorodu City and El Kanemi Warriors, booking their places in the men's final scheduled for July the 11th in Asaba, Delta State, at the Samuel Ogbomedia Stadium in Benin City. Ikorodu City continued their fairy tale run by defeating Nasarawa United by 4 goals to 2 on penalties after both teams played out a 1-0 draw in regulation time. The result extended Nasarawa United's misery in the competition, with the solid miners once again suffering heartbreak from the penalty spot at the same venue 5 years after losing their 2021 final to the Prosperity Boys Bayelsa United. In Katsina, 3-time champions El Kanemi Warriors secured a second consecutive appearance in the final after beating Wiki Tourists 3-1. That's the Bauchi Elephants in their semi-final clash. In the women's competition, Hatsan Queens will battle Nasarawa Amazons for the title after both sides recorded semi-final victories. Hatsan Queens reached the final for the first time in their history following a 2-1 victory over FC Robo Queens in Benin City, while Nasarawa Amazons booked a second successive appearance in the final with a 2-1 victory over Sunshine Queens at the Nnamdi Azikiwe Stadium in Enugu. From there now, let's turn our focus to the ongoing Mundial in USA, Mexico and Canada. Of course, we look at results from games played across different centers last night and in the early hours of today. Just so you know, Australia are into the last 32 of the World Cup, and Paraguay are well placed to join them after a goalless draw in San Francisco, which suited both sides. Interesting times at the Mundial with results coming in thick and fast as we coast gradually to the round of 32. Now, the two teams finished Group D on 4 points, but Australia's superior goal difference has earned them second spot and automatic progression. They'll face the second place team from Group G in the next round, which is currently Iran, but could be Egypt, Belgium, or even the All Blacks, and that's New Zealand. Paraguay, who are set up to secure a clean sheet, currently ranked 4th in the top place standings, with 8 of the 12 top place finishers going through. They didn't have a shot until the second half after switching to back three. Back three to match their opponent, although Sub Mauricio did almost grab a late winner, which, of course, Paraguay had conceded 4 to USA. Second match. But this was a far more determined and better organized defensive display against an Australian side which had plenty of possession but little incision. Ultimately, this largely forgettable game was all about the result, which has ensured Australia's adventure goes on and should be enough for Paraguay as well. Also, former Arsenal forward Nicolas Pepe scored twice as the Ivory Coast secured second place in Group E with a comfortable 2-0 victory over Curaçao. It was quite an interesting encounter for the most part of that very one. The result sent Emma's first side into the World Cup knockout stages for the first time in history and ensured the debutants finished bottom of the pile. Les Elephants only needed a point to finish as runners-up, but they took control early on and went in front inside 7 minutes when Liverpool target Yan Diomande took advantage of Curaçao's failing from right corner. It was a very good effort for the most part of that very one from Nicolas Pepe, who was right there for the asking and gave every answer needed to get things rightly done. It should have been 2-0 before the 20-minute mark, but under pressure, Amad Diallo, scored another Diomande cross wide. Curaçao did not lose spirit with Juren Gare, Tehith Gong and Leandro Bacuna all managing shots, but a combined expected goal of 0.13 illustrated the lack of definitive threat they carried. While they trailed by just 1 goal, Dick Advocaat's side possessed more urgency of the two teams after the break until their hopes suffered a hammer blow just after the hour when Ibrahim Sangare set Pepe free in the box with a glorious ball. He opened his body and qualified his second pass, Eloy Rome. That secured Ivory Coast's historic progression and broke Curaçao's hearts. Now, elsewhere, we saw another game being played. Eliminated Turkey scored a 98-minute winner to clinch a 3-2 victory over World Cup co-host United States of America, who will face Bosnia and Herzegovina in the round of 32. It was an interesting encounter, actually, for the most part for the Turkish side. Turkey's tournament exit was already confirmed after back-to-back losses to Australia and Paraguay, in which they failed to score from 62 shots, but they restored some pride thanks to substitute Can Ayan's close-range winner in the final seconds in Los Angeles. Of course, the player who was right there, at the right place and at the right time. USA, already assured of a round of 32 spot as group winners, went in front in the third minute when Austin Trusty scored from a corner, but Turkey fought back with goals from Adagula and Baris Yilmaz as Vincenzo Montea's side, belatedly found some cutting edge. Of course, it was quite an interesting encounter, I tell you, for the most part. Sebastian Bella was right there for the asking. He came through for the USA side. Christian Pulisic also gave a good account of himself, but it wasn't quite enough to set them right, for the most part of that very one. Of course, it was Turkey, though, who would have the final say, as Ayan was right there. He forced a cross shot from fellow substitute Can Uzon over the line to condemn Mauricio Pochettino's side to a first defeat of the tournament. And of course, before they head into the knockout stage to face Group B, Group B place finishers Bosnia and Herzegovina. Interestingly, Ecuador stunned another already qualified Germany side, with a 2-1 comeback win in New Jersey to reach the World Cup knockout stages and dent Scotland's round of 32 hopes. It was an interesting encounter for what it's worth, so long as the World Cup is concerned. Gonzalo Plata's 77th minute winner sent Ecuador through as one of the best third-placed teams, with the South American side a potential round of 32 opponent for England should the Three Lions top Group L. But Scotland, Ecuador's dramatic victory means Steve Clarke's side dropped to the final 8th placed spot, with other teams still to finish their group stage. Of course, the Tartan Army needed a favor from Germany, and it started well as Leroy Sané struck an opener inside the opening 2 minutes of that very encounter. But Sunderland's Nelson Angulo hit a fine leveler just 7 minutes later before Plata prodded home late in the second period to spark wild Ecuadorian scenes in New Jersey. The stunning win represented an amazing turnaround for Sebastian Bocasti's side, who failed to win their opening 2 games without scoring. Now, in another development, Anthony Elanga's stunning equalizer booked Sweden's spot in the World Cup knockout stages after a 1-1 draw with Japan, which also, as they also go through as second place team in Group F. It was an interesting affair for what it's worth, a game to watch, I tell you, for the most part, as there was no dull moment. A draw suited both teams in terms of qualification, and a draw first half hinted both teams, a draw first half hinted both teams. Of course, I tell you for what it's worth, but we saw some amazing scenes in the second period with some really good situations or big situations being created for the most part of that very one. 10 minutes after halftime, Daisen Maeda slide Japan in front after some lovely football on the edge of the Sweden penalty area. But 7 minutes later, Newcastle United winger Anthony Elanga called in a glorious left-footed shot, for his second goal in 2 World Cup matches. Minutes later, Alexander Isak nearly turned the game on its head, but his low effort was kept out by Zion Suzuki, who then kept out Elanga in stoppage time. Isak then struck the bar from resulting corner as Graham Potter's side improved as the game went on. The result sees all 3 teams with points qualifying from Group F, while it is another blow to Scotland, the Titan Army. Only a 4-goal win for Japan could have boosted their qualification chances as a third-placed team. That scenario was never likely. Now, just so you know, the Netherlands secured top spot in Group F with a comprehensive 3-0 victory over North African giants, talking about Tunisia. The Tunisian side have not been, at the best at the World Cup so far. The Netherlands knew that top spot would be there. So long as, they smashed Japan's result against Sweden. And with the other Group F game finishing 1-0, Ronald Koeman's side, safely took first. A third-minute own goal from Elias Shikiri, the 12th this tournament and joint most in World Cup history, was followed by Brian Burberry's third of the competition 4 minutes later to put the Dutch side in command. Hazim Masturi did respond with a goal on his World Cup debut early in the second period, but a header from Jan-Paul van Hecker just after the hour mark secured points for the Oranje. Now the question is, who will each Group F team face in the round of 32? It's quite interesting to talk about this for the most part of the tournament, so long as the Group F is concerned. Now, for the Netherlands, they most likely face Morocco in Guadalupe, Mexico on Tuesday, June the 30th. Interesting times. And of course, the kickoff is expected to be 2 a.m. Nigerian time and UK time. Brazil will face Japan in Houston, Texas on Monday, June 29th. Kickoff at 6 p.m. Nigerian time and of course UK time. Sweden could face any of Germany, the Group I winners, Mexico, USA or Switzerland, depending on which other third place teams get to qualify. However, their opponents are most likely to be the Group I winners, which will be one of France or Norway. That round of 32 game will take place on Tuesday, June 30th in New Jersey, New York, 10 p.m. Nigerian time, and of course UK time. Let's talk about the eliminated teams, because at least 10 teams have been sent packing from the Mundial already in USA, Mexico and Canada. 10 teams already out. Curacao became the latest North American country to be eliminated after they lost 2-0 to the Ivory Coast. Nicolas Pepe's double ensured the Elephants qualified for the knockout stages, while the debutants bowed out. Other North American teams that are out include Panama and of course Haiti. From Europe, the trio of Titan Army, that's Scotland, Turkey and Czech Republic, have been eliminated from the tournament. Qatar, Uzbekistan and Jordan from Asia are also out, while Tunisia is the only African nation confirmed to be home. There are 6 more countries whose exit will be confirmed before the round of 32. Now let's talk about the qualifying teams already, where at least 19 teams have confirmed their places in the round of 32 at the tournament. After, interesting games and all of that, 19 teams are sure of a place. The latest countries to book their spots includes Australia, the Socceroos, the Ivory Coast, Ecuador, Japan, the Netherlands, Sweden, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and of course Colombia. Australia were held to a goalless draw by Paraguay in their last Group D fixture and finished as runners-up. Ivory Coast defeated debutant Curacao 2-0 in the final group game to finish in second place. Ecuador came from behind to stun Germany 2-1, while Japan and Sweden played out a 1-1 draw. The Netherlands saw off Tunisia 3-1 to finish as group winners. They'll all join the likes of Mexico, South Africa, Canada, Switzerland, USA, Brazil, Morocco, Germany, France, Norway and Argentina in the next round of the tournament. And of course, going into the game, former England striker Alan Shearer selected his ideal England starting X1 that could potentially win the 2026 World Cup tournament. Yeah, he's got his ideal starting 11, but then he's not the coach. Of course, they got that man Thomas Tuchel as at the end of affairs. England is regarded as one of the tournament's frontrunners for the title. The back-to-back UEFA Euro runners-up boast a talented squad guided by German coach Thomas Tuchel. So they cemented their campaign positively with a 4-2 victory over Croatia, and that was in their opener at the Mundial. However, they were held to a goalless draw. Yeah, a stalemate by a resolute Ghanaian side in their second match. A win against Panama in their Group L game could still see them qualify as group leaders. The starting lineup for England has sparked an extensive discussion among fans and analysts alike. In a recent exclusive interview, of course, Alan Shearer shared his thoughts by naming the X1 he would prefer to field. The 55-year-old retained the #1 spot for goalkeeper Jordan Pickford in goal. His defensive lineup features Reece James, John Stones, Mark Gay and Nico O'Reilly, blending experience and youthful vigor. Shearer has aimed for equilibrium in midfield, placing Elliot Anderson in a defensive role, Declan Rice in a box-to-box position and Jude Bellingham as an attacking midfielder. He's made some intriguing choices for the wings. That's selecting Bukayo Saka, who is currently recovering from an injury, Marcus Rashford, who has appeared as a substitute in both matches so far. In the forward position, Shearer naturally chooses Harry Kane, England's captain and all-time leading scorer with 81 goals in 116 appearances for the side. The former Newcastle United player is confident that the team he selected possesses the capability of triumph in the 2026 tournament. Alright, so that's it with the World Cup world stories making the rounds regarding the FIFA World Cup ongoing USA, Mexico and Canada, and providing 8 assists in 33 games across all competitions. His remarkable performances were crucial in aiding the yellow and reds to successfully defend their league title, which in turn has drawn attention from top European teams. The Nigerian international has been frequently associated with potential transfers to Paris Saint-Germain, Manchester United, West Londoners Chelsea, and more. Recently, Atletico de Madrid. Various reports have indicated that Atletico is attempting or contemplating Osimhen as a potential replacement if Julian Alvarez leaves the club, due to increasing interest from La Blaugrana and that FC Barcelona. Genuine interest from an unnamed European club. According to Tezi, this club has communicated to Galatasaray officials, their readiness to pay the significant transfer fee for the Super Eagles star. Nevertheless, the Turkish champions reportedly did not respond positively, indicating their intention to retain the prolific forward. Of course, Osimhen, such a fox in the box, he joined from the Partenope, talking about Napoli, and he's expected to stay put at the side after saying on numerous occasions that he was really happy. He feels at home right there in Istanbul. He's welcomed, and that's family. As the new season approaches, the Turkish giants are keen to keep Osimhen as it strives to compete for additional trophies, both domestically and in European competitions. Now, let's move on to Manchester, where the Red Devils United have reportedly been in direct contact with Julian Alvarez's representatives. Of course, Alvarez has been touted to join several teams after declaring openly that he's eager and ready to leave Atletico de Madrid this very summer. Arsenal have failed talks over a potential move for Newcastle United midfielder, talking about Bruno Guimaraes. So Bruno Guimaraes is another player that's actually in the news. The Newcastle United player has been absolutely top for the most part, and he's been touted to leave the club this very summer. But then it's just about who wants him. Like I keep saying, I keep saying that a player is worth what the club is willing to pay. In another development, Tottenham Hotspur have reached Stockport United, or Stockport County academic recruitment, talking about Ryan Grott. And Newcastle have revolved a second approach from Tottenham for Sandro Tonali, with Spurs asking price. The Magpies, Spurs asking the Magpies to reconsider their original £75 million offer. And now the Magpies have been hit with a demand for £3.2 million from HM Revenue and Customs over a deliberate failure to pay tax, according to official disclosures that relates to a near decade-long investment, into player transfer under the club's former owner, Mike Ashley. Now, let's study that the Reds Liverpool are set for further frustration in their bid to price Jan Diomande away from RB Leipzig. Jan Diomande is currently on international duty. He's one of the standout players at the tournament so far. The Reds' initial offer of £87 million was rejected last week, and an improved bid in excess of £100 million is also unlikely to be enough. Meanwhile, Jamie Carragher believes the player Jan Diomande possesses similar traits to Mohamed Salah and, of course, Sadio Mane amid links to Liverpool. Liverpool are, among a number of clubs interested in the Ivory Coast international. RB Leipzig could be open to selling Jan Diomande for an estimated fee of about €112 million. That's about £130 million. According to Jamie Carragher, he said in his words, "I thought he was fantastic in the first game of the World Cup, less so in the second game, but he's a real danger. I think what should be buying is potential. It's not what he is right now. He's a 19-year-old kid. He's a young man, but when you look at him physically, he looks like he's got all of those attributes. You think of those success Liverpool have had in the past with powerful, quick, white men. And so he sees him as, a player with the quality of Mohamed Salah and, of course, that man Sadio Mane. Now, Manchester City have agreed a deal with Nottingham Forest to sign Elliot Anderson. Anderson, is one of the most outstanding players, one of the most outstanding midfielders currently in world football. The fee is understood to be in the region of 100 British player ever. Forest have given permission for the midfielder to undergo a medical in due course. So Anderson is currently in the USA with England at the World Cup, where he started their 2 group games so far at the tournament. Discussions are ongoing about when Anderson can have a medical, given England play on Saturday against Panama in the final Group L match. Yeah, so personal terms are not expected to be a problem. Not a problem. In early June, Manchester City had an initial offer for Anderson knocked back by Nottingham Forest. So the 23